Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper. Uncover the hidden secrets of history, from ancient mysteries to lost civilizations. Join us on this thrilling journey. Subscribe and dive into the unknown. Along the desolate coast of Peru, etched into the side of a massive sandy hill, is a symbol so large it can be seen from miles out at sea. It is known as the Paracas Candelabra. For centuries, this enigmatic trident has silently watched over the Pacific Ocean, a giant question mark carved into the earth. Who created this colossal geoglyph? And more importantly, why? Was it a giant lighthouse for ancient sailors? A sacred symbol for a powerful god? Or was it something else? A sign meant for visitors who weren't from this world? Today, we dig into the mystery of the Candelabra of the Andes. Before we can begin to theorize about gods, aliens, or ancient lighthouses, we must first meet the giant itself. We must start our investigation by establishing the known facts, by profiling the silent, sandy figure that has puzzled travelers and historians for centuries. To understand the mystery of the Paracas Candelabra, we must first appreciate its sheer scale, its unique design, its specific location, and the incredible effort that went into its creation. This is not a subtle clue or a hidden artifact. It is one of the largest and most enigmatic monuments on the face of the earth. Let's open the case file on this colossal figure. Our first file entry concerns the design and the dimensions of the monument. The Paracas Candelabra is what archaeologists call a geoglyph, which is simply a large design or motif created on the surface of the ground. But that simple definition does little to capture its breathtaking scale. This is not a small drawing meant to be seen up close. It is a figure of truly monumental proportions. The candelabra stands over 180 meters, or nearly 600 feet, tall. To put that into perspective, it is almost as tall as the Washington Monument, or two statues of Liberty stacked one on top of the other. Its lines are carved into the earth to a depth of about 1 meter, or 3 feet, ensuring that they cast strong shadows and remain clearly visible. The design itself is elegant and powerful. It consists of a long, central staff or trunk, from which 3 distinct branches emerge, creating a shape that strongly resembles a trident or a 3-branched candelabrum, hence its name. The central staff is the longest, while the 2 side branches curve gracefully outwards and upwards. At the base of the central staff, a rectangular box shape is carved, and strange, zigzagging lines emanate from the main figure. The overall effect is one of immense size and deliberate symbolic design. This was not a random doodle. It was a carefully planned and executed piece of graphic art on a colossal scale. The reason for its immense size is simple. It was designed to be seen from a great distance. A person standing on the beach below is too close to fully appreciate it. Its true impact is only felt from miles away, out on the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. From a boat 20 kilometers or 12 miles out at sea, the candelabra is still a clear and unmistakable landmark on the distant coast. This brings us to our second case file, the specific location and the unique environment where the candelabra was created. The giant is etched into the northern face of the Paracas Peninsula, a barren and windswept stretch of land that juts out into the Pacific Ocean in southern Peru. The creators did not choose a flat piece of ground. They chose a massive, sloping hillside composed of reddish, hardened sand and compacted soil. The hill slopes at a steep 45-degree angle, which is crucial. This steep incline means the figure is tilted towards the sea, acting like a giant billboard, perfectly positioned to be seen by anyone approaching from the water. The survival of the candelabra for over 2 millennia is a testament to the unique climate of this region. The Paracas Peninsula is a hyperarid desert, one of the driest places on the planet. It receives almost no rainfall. The lack of rain means there is no water erosion to wash the lines away. Furthermore, the wind in this specific location blows in such a way that it tends to scour the inside of the trenches, keeping them clear of loose sand rather than filling them in. The geoglyph has been preserved in a near-perfect state by its own unique microclimate. It is a work of art that could only have been created and could only have survived in this very specific and desolate place. It is a monument perfectly in tune with its environment. So, who were the brilliant engineers who chose this perfect location, and when did they create their masterpiece? This is the third entry in our case file, the age and origin of the monument. For a long time, the candelabra's age was a complete mystery. Unlike the more famous Nazca lines further south, it seemed to be a singular, isolated creation. The key to unlocking its age came from fragments of pottery that were discovered by archaeologists near the geoglyph. These ceramic pieces were analyzed and identified as belonging to the Paracas culture. Radiocarbon dating of these pottery fragments placed them firmly in a period around 200 BC. This makes the candelabra approximately 2,200 years old. This date is incredibly significant for two reasons. First, it establishes the candelabra as a much older creation than the more famous Nazca lines, which were created several centuries later. This suggests that the tradition of creating massive geoglyphs in the Peruvian desert did not begin with the Nazca people, but with their predecessors, the Paracas. The Paracas culture, which flourished in this region from roughly 800 BC to 100 AD, was a sophisticated and complex society, and the candelabra is now seen as one of their greatest achievements. Second, the date of 200 BC firmly places the monument in a pre-Incan and indeed pre-Christian context. Any theories about it being a symbol created by the Spanish conquistadors or having a connection to the Christian Trinity are immediately ruled out. The candelabra is a purely indigenous, pre-Columbian American creation. This leads us to our final case file entry, the method of construction. How did a so-called primitive culture, with no metal tools harder than bronze, create such a massive and precise figure? The technique was remarkably simple, yet it would have required incredible effort and organization. The candelabra was not made by piling up rocks, like some other geoglyphs. Instead, the Paracas people used a subtractive method. The surface of the desert hills in this region has a dark, reddish-brown crust, a kind of desert varnish that has formed over thousands of years. But just beneath this dark crust is a much lighter-colored, yellowish sand. The creators of the candelabra simply dug trenches into the ground, removing the dark top layer of soil to a depth of about a meter. This exposed the bright, contrasting layer of sand beneath. The result is a negative image, a bright figure drawn against a dark background, which makes it highly visible from a distance. While the method was simple, the execution would have been a monumental undertaking. It would have required a team of surveyors and planners to lay out the enormous design with precision, using simple tools like ropes and stakes. Then, a large, coordinated workforce would have been needed to dig the hundreds of meters of trenches into the hard-packed ground, using nothing more than simple stone or bronze tools and woven baskets to carry away the soil. This was not the work of a single artist or a small group. This was a major community project, a massive investment of time and labor that could have taken weeks or even months to complete. It was an act of communal devotion, a testament to the power of a society to come together to create something vast, enduring, and meaningful. As we close this initial case file, the profile of the giant becomes clear. We have a colossal figure, deliberately designed to be seen from the sea. It is located in a sacred, astronomically significant landscape, a place where the climate itself has become its guardian. It was created 200 years before the time of Christ by a sophisticated indigenous culture, using a simple but laborious technique that would have required the coordinated effort of an entire community. These are the facts. And these facts form the foundation upon which all the strange and wonderful theories about the candelabra's true purpose are built. A monument of such colossal size and effort demands a purpose. The Paracas people did not invest hundreds or thousands of man-hours digging these massive trenches into a hillside for no reason. This was a creation with a clear and important function. But what was it? Before we venture into the realms of gods and aliens, let's first explore the theories that are grounded here on Earth. Let's examine the practical problems that the ancient people of this region faced, and consider how the candelabra might have been a brilliant, large-scale solution. These are the theories that see the candelabra not as a message to the heavens, but as an ingenious tool for mortals. The first and most enduring practical theory is that the candelabra was, quite simply, a lighthouse. Not a lighthouse in the modern sense with a bright, burning lamp, but a navigational beacon for sailors on the treacherous Pacific Ocean. To understand this theory, we must first understand the problem of ancient maritime navigation. The Paracas people were skilled seafarers. They relied on the ocean for a huge portion of their food, and they likely engaged in coastal trade with other communities. But navigating this stretch of the Peruvian coast is incredibly difficult. It is a monotonous landscape of endless, similar-looking sandy cliffs, with very few distinctive natural landmarks. For a sailor in a simple reed boat, trying to find their way home after a long fishing trip, one stretch of desert coast could look exactly like the next. Getting lost was a constant and deadly danger. The candelabra provides a perfect solution to this problem. It is a giant, man-made landmark that is completely unique and utterly unmissable. Its position on a high, sloping hillside, facing directly out to sea, seems perfectly designed for this purpose. As we've noted, it is clearly visible from as far as 20 kilometers or 12 miles away. For a boat approaching the coast, the first thing they would see is not the low-lying shoreline, but the giant, three-pronged figure emerging from the haze. It would have served as an unmistakable signpost, a clear and comforting signal that they were approaching the Paracas Peninsula. More specifically, it would have guided them towards the large, sheltered Pisco Bay, which is one of the few safe harbors in the region and a rich fishing ground. In this view, the candelabra is a masterpiece of practical, life-saving engineering. It is a giant sign that says to every sailor, "You are here. Welcome home." This navigational idea leads to a second, more specific theory. The candelabra might not have just been a general landmark, but a very specific kind of signal, one that communicated crucial information about the immediate weather conditions. The problem was not just getting lost, but surviving the notoriously dangerous local winds. The Paracas region is known for a phenomenon where the coastal winds are often calm and gentle in the morning, but in the afternoon, as the desert land heats up faster than the ocean, ferocious winds can suddenly whip up, creating dangerous sailing conditions for small boats. A fishing crew caught out on the water in these afternoon gales could easily be capsized or blown far out to sea. According to some local legends and interpretations, the candelabra functioned as a giant weather gauge. Because it is carved into a west-facing slope, its relationship with the morning sun is key. In the early morning, the rising sun would strike the figure at an angle, casting deep, clear shadows inside its trenches. This sharp, high-contrast image would have been clearly visible to boats out on the water. This was the signal for all clear. The clear shadow meant the winds were calm and it was safe to sail and fish. However, as the day progressed and the sun rose higher in the sky, its angle would change. By the afternoon, the sun would be shining almost directly onto the face of the hill, causing the shadows within the trenches to shorten and disappear. The fading of the candelabra's shadow was the warning sign. It was a clear signal to every boat on the water that the dangerous afternoon winds were about to begin, and it was time to head back to the safety of the shore. In this scenario, the geoglyph is a brilliant, passive safety device, a natural clock using the sun and shadows to communicate a vital, time-sensitive warning. These first two theories focus on the candelabra's relationship with the sea. But our third practical theory suggests it was also a crucial landmark for those traveling by land. The Paracas Peninsula was not just a place for fishermen. Archaeological evidence shows that it was a major ceremonial center for the Paracas culture. It is famous for its vast necropolis, a massive burial ground where the Paracas elite were interred in elaborate underground tombs, wrapped in some of the most beautiful and complex textiles ever created. This was a sacred, powerful place. As such, it would have drawn people from all over the region, not just sailors, but traders coming to exchange goods, and religious pilgrims coming to visit the sacred sites and honor their ancestors. For these land-based travelers who would have been trekking along the arid coastline, the candelabra would have served the same purpose as it did for the sailors. It was a giant, unmistakable landmark. After days of walking through a repetitive desert landscape, the sight of the colossal figure on the distant hillside would have been a welcome sign. It would have told them that they were approaching their destination, the sacred ceremonial heartland of the Paracas people. In this view, the candelabra is less of a lighthouse and more of a giant welcome sign or a cathedral spire, a beacon that guided both the living and the spirits of the dead to this important ritual landscape. Our final practical theory is a more recent and more provocative one. It connects the candelabra's unique shape not to a man-made object, but to a natural one. This theory proposes that the three-branched figure is a stylized representation of a plant. Specifically, a local plant called the Jimson weed or datura, which has a similar three-branch structure. The Jimson weed is not an ordinary plant. It is a powerful and highly dangerous psychoactive hallucinogen. For centuries, it has been used by shamans in many indigenous South American cultures as a sacred tool to induce visions and travel to the spirit world. The Paracas people were a deeply spiritual and ritualistic society, and it is highly likely that their shamans used hallucinogenic plants in their ceremonies. According to this theory, the candelabra is a giant symbol marking the Paracas Peninsula as a sacred place where this powerful plant could be found and harvested. It was a sign, understood by shamans and initiates, that this was a place of power, a portal to the spirit world, facilitated by the sacred plant. The geoglyph, in this context, is not a navigational tool for ordinary people, but a symbolic map for spiritual voyagers. It advertised the spiritual significance of the land itself, a land that produced the key to unlocking other realities. This would explain the candelabra's connection to the massive ceremonial burial grounds nearby. It was all part of one large, integrated ritual landscape, dedicated to the journey of the soul, both in life and in death, a journey often aided by the visions provided by the sacred Jimson weed. So we are left with a series of compelling, practical explanations. Was it a lighthouse for sailors, a weather gauge for fishermen, a landmark for pilgrims, or a sacred symbol for shamans? What all these theories share is a deep respect for the ingenuity of the Paracas people. They see the candelabra not as a mystery that requires an otherworldly explanation, but as a brilliant solution to the real-world problems of navigation, safety, and spiritual practice. They show us a people who were masters of their environment, capable of transforming the very land itself into a tool to serve the needs of their community. The practical theories we've explored are logical, elegant, and grounded in the realities of the ancient world. They present the Paracas candelabra as a brilliant tool created by clever mortals. But for many who stand before this colossal figure, or gaze upon its image, a simple, practical explanation feels incomplete. The sheer scale of the monument, its powerful and solitary presence, and its enigmatic design seem to hint at a purpose that transcends the everyday needs of sailors and shamans. This leads us into a different realm of inquiry, a world of gods, myths, and cosmic diagrams. It's time to explore the mythical theories, the interpretations that see the candelabra not as a tool for humanity, but as a message intended for the heavens. The first, and by far the most prominent mythical theory, connects the candelabra to the very creator of the Andean world. The shape of the geoglyph is not just a random candelabrum. To many, it is a clear representation of a trident or a lightning staff, and in the grand pantheon of Andean mythology, the trident is the unmistakable symbol of the great creator god, Viracocha. Viracocha was not just a local deity. He was the supreme being, the one who rose from the waters of Lake Titicaca to create the sun, the moon, the stars, and all of humanity. He was a civilizing hero who traveled the Andes, teaching people the arts of agriculture and architecture, before walking out across the Pacific Ocean, promising to one day return. According to this powerful theory, the Paracas candelabra is a massive tribute to this creator god. It is his personal staff, his symbol of power, etched into the very earth he created. Its placement on a hillside facing the Pacific Ocean is no accident. It faces the direction from which Viracocha was said to have departed, and the direction from which he was expected to one day return. In this view, the candelabra serves a dual purpose. First, it is a gesture of immense devotion, a permanent offering to honor the god and to show the people's eternal gratitude. But second, it is a beacon for the god himself. It is a sign meant to be seen not from a fishing boat, but from the heavens, a clear marker to guide Viracocha back to his people upon his prophesied return. The candelabra becomes a piece of sacred communication, a prayer written not with words, but with the land itself, a permanent connection between the mortal world and the divine. This idea of the candelabra as a cosmic diagram leads us to a second, related mythical interpretation. Its Shapi central, vertical axis with branches reaching upwards is a pattern that appears in cultures all over the world. It is the archetypal symbol of the world tree, or the axis mundi, the cosmic axis around which the entire universe revolves. In many ancient mythologies, the world tree is the pillar that connects the different realms of existence. Its roots delve deep into the underworld, the realm of the dead and the spirits of the earth. This trunk stands firmly in our world, the world of mortals, and its high branches reach up into the heavens, the celestial realm of the gods and the stars. If we look at the candelabra through this lens, it ceases to be just a trident. It becomes a complete diagram of the cosmos as the Paracas people understood it. The central staff is the trunk of the world tree, the pillar that connects everything. The strange, rectangular box at its base could represent the underworld, the earthly foundation from which all life springs. And the three magnificent branches reaching for the sky represent the upper world, the celestial realm. In this interpretation, the candelabra is not just a tribute to a single god. It is a profound philosophical and religious statement. It is a declaration that this specific place, the Paracas Peninsula, is a sacred center of the universe, an axis mundi, where the veil between the different worlds is thin, a place where humans can communicate with both the spirits below and the gods above. It's a diagram of reality itself, a tool for orienting not just sailors on the sea, but the entire community within the grand cosmic order. This idea of a portal between worlds connects directly to our third mythical theory, one that focuses on the role of the shaman. The shaman in ancient societies was a crucial figure, a spiritual technician who could travel between the physical world and the spirit world to heal the sick, predict the future, and maintain balance between humans and the forces of nature. And the shaman's most important tool was often his staff, a ritual object that was believed to hold great power. Many of these ceremonial staffs were topped with a three-pronged or trident-like shape. This theory proposes that the Paracas candelabra is a massive, supersized representation of a shaman's ritual staff. It might have been created to honor a single legendary shaman of immense power, or it could represent the power of the shamanic class as a whole. But its purpose could have been even more direct. The geoglyph itself might have been a source of power, a giant ritual diagram that shamans used to fuel their spiritual journeys. They might have performed ceremonies at its base, or meditated upon its shape, to help them enter a trance state and travel to the other worlds depicted by the world tree. In this context, the candelabra is not for the public at all. It is a specialist's tool, a secret diagram of power, its true meaning known only to the initiated few who knew how to use it to navigate not the Pacific Ocean, but the far more dangerous and mysterious inner seas of the spirit world. From a message to the gods, we now take one final, giant leap to a message intended for visitors who were not gods at all. This, of course, is the ancient astronaut theory. As with nearly every massive and mysterious ancient monument, from the pyramids of Giza to the lines of Nazca, proponents of this theory argue that the Paracas candelabra defies conventional explanation. For authors like the famous Erich von Daniken, the sheer size and precision of the figure, and its placement as a beacon visible from a great distance, points to an otherworldly purpose. The theory suggests that the candelabra was not built by the Paracas people, but was either built for them by extraterrestrial visitors, or was built by the Paracas people at the direction of these visitors. Its purpose, in this view, was purely technological. It was a giant navigational marker for spacecraft. Just as modern airports have massive numbers and symbols painted on their runways to guide pilots, the candelabra could have been a signpost for ancient astronauts. Its unmistakable shape would have been easily recognizable from high orbit, guiding their ships to a specific landing site or base of operations on the Paracas Peninsula. Some have even speculated that it was not just a passive marker, but an active one. Perhaps the trenches were once filled with a combustible material and set alight, turning the candelabra into a true, blazing lighthouse for ships descending from the night sky. In this spectacular scenario, the myths of Viracocha arriving from the heavens are not myths at all. They are the distorted memories of real contact with advanced extraterrestrial beings. And the candelabra is the hard, physical evidence of that contact. A giant X marks the spot left behind by visitors from another world. So we are left with a spectrum of mythical possibilities, each one grander than the last. Was it a tribute to a creator god, a diagram of the cosmos, a power source for shamans, or a landing strip for aliens? What all these theories share is a sense that the candelabra's purpose was aimed upwards, towards the sky. They all see it as a form of communication, a message meant to be read from a great height. Whether that message was intended for the eyes of a returning god, the spirits of the heavens, or the pilots of a silver spacecraft, these theories transform the candelabra from a simple earthly tool into a profound and mysterious link between our world and another. We have now explored the full spectrum of theories surrounding the Paracas candelabra. We've considered its practical uses as a tool for mortals and its mythical purpose as a message to the gods. The case file is filled with possibilities, from a simple fisherman's landmark to an alien landing strip. But now it is time to bring our investigation to a close. To unravel this mystery, we can't look at the candelabra in isolation. We must place it back into its proper context. We must connect it to the other known facts about the people who made it, the land they lived in, and the other great works they left behind. By answering a few key questions and piecing together the available evidence, we can move from speculation to a powerful and coherent conclusion. The first and most obvious question we must ask is about its relationship to the most famous geoglyphs in the world, the Nazca Lines. The Nazca Lines are located just a couple of 100 kilometers to the south of Paracas. They are a breathtaking collection of hundreds of geometric shapes and giant animal figures drawn on the flat desert floor. Because of their proximity and their similar nature as giant earth drawings, many people assume they are connected, that the candelabra is simply one of the Nazca lines that happens to be on a hill. But when we look at the evidence, a very different picture emerges. The archaeological context tells us that the Paracas candelabra and the Nazca lines are distinct phenomena, likely created by different cultures for different purposes. The most crucial piece of evidence is the age. As we've established, pottery found at the candelabra site dates it to the Paracas culture, around 200 BC. The Nazca lines, however, are now known to have been created several centuries later by the Nazca culture, which flourished after the Paracas culture had declined. This means the candelabra is significantly older. It is the forerunner, the ancestor of the Nazca tradition, not a part of it. Furthermore, their form and location are completely different. The candelabra is a single, massive, isolated figure, placed on a steep, ocean-facing hillside. This primary audience seems to be the sea. The Nazca lines, in contrast, are a sprawling complex of hundreds of different figures: hummingbirds, spiders, monkeys, and long, straight trapezoids drawn on a flat desert plateau, far from the coast. Many of the Nazca figures are so large and complex that they can only be fully appreciated from high in the air, which is why the ancient astronaut theories are so popular for them. The candelabra, on the other hand, is perfectly and clearly visible from sea level. While they are both incredible examples of Peruvian geoglyphs, lumping them together is a mistake. They are two different chapters in a long and complex story, and the candelabra's chapter came first. So, if the candelabra was created by the Paracas people, what else do we know about them? This is our second key question. Understanding the creators is essential to understanding their creation. The Paracas culture was not a simple or primitive society. They were a highly sophisticated and deeply ritualistic civilization, and they left behind two of the most astonishing categories of artifacts in the ancient world. The first is their textiles. The Paracas people were arguably the most skilled weavers in all of pre-Columbian America. They created enormous, beautifully embroidered textiles, rich with vibrant colors and incredibly complex designs. These textiles depicted a world filled with powerful, supernatural beings: strange, flying shamans, animal-headed gods, and warriors holding severed trophy heads. This tells us that the Paracas people had a rich and complex mythology and were capable of expressing it through sophisticated, symbolic art. The second, and perhaps stranger, thing they are known for is the practice of cranial deformation. The Paracas elite would bind the heads of their infants, causing their skulls to grow into an elongated, conical shape. We don't know for certain why they did this, but the prevailing theory is that it was a marker of high status, a way to visually separate the nobility from the common people, perhaps to make them look more like the powerful, long-headed gods depicted in their art. What this practice shows is a society deeply invested in ritual, in tradition, and in physically embodying their spiritual beliefs. When we consider this cultural prophylia, people skilled in creating large-scale, complex symbolic art and dedicated to elaborate, body-altering rituals, the idea of them creating a single, massive symbolic geoglyph on a sacred hillside doesn't just seem plausible. It seems perfectly in character. The candelabra fits their known cultural footprint exactly. This leads us to our third question, which brings us back to the practical theories. Of all the proposed earthly uses, why does the navigational beacon theory remain so strong among archaeologists? The answer is simple: because it works, and it solves a real and pressing problem. Even today, with modern GPS and navigation tools, local fishermen in the Pisco Bay area still use the candelabra as a visual landmark. It is a reliable and unmissable feature in an otherwise monotonous landscape. The logic is undeniable. The Pisco Bay is one of the only large, safe harbors along a very long and dangerous stretch of the Peruvian coast. It is also an incredibly rich fishing ground, which would have been the lifeblood of the Paracas people. A giant, permanent marker that unambiguously guides sailors to this crucial safe harbor and food source makes perfect practical sense. It would have saved lives, reduced the risk of long fishing voyages, and been a vital piece of public infrastructure. When faced with a mystery, we should always consider the simplest, most practical explanation first. And the idea that the candelabra is a giant lighthouse, a landmark for ancient sailors, is an explanation that is both powerful and elegant, requiring no appeal to the supernatural or the otherworldly. So, where does this leave us? Is it a practical beacon or a mythical symbol? This is the final and most important question of our investigation. After examining all the evidence, the most likely verdict is that the candelabra was not one or the other. It was both at the same time, and its power came from this very fusion. We in the modern world have a tendency to create sharp divisions between the practical and the religious, the scientific and the sacred. But for ancient peoples like the Paracas, this division did not exist. Let's synthesize the strongest theories. The most prominent mythical theory is that the trident shape represents the great creator god, Viracocha. The most powerful practical theory is that it served as a navigational beacon for sailors. The most probable answer is that it was a navigational beacon because it was the symbol of Viracocha. Imagine an ancient Paracas sailor, caught in a storm, lost in the fog. The sight of the giant trident appearing on the hillside would not just be a geographical marker. It would be a sign from their creator God himself. It would be a promise of his protection, a signal that he was watching over them and guiding them safely home. The symbol's divine power would have given them courage and faith, while its physical location provided them with the practical directional information they needed to survive. The candelabra was a masterpiece of integrated design. It was a holy symbol that served a life-saving purpose. It was a prayer to a god that also functioned as a map. It was a temple and a lighthouse fused into one magnificent monument. This conclusion respects the intelligence and pragmatism of the Paracas people, while also honoring the depth and complexity of their spiritual world. It shows us a society that had mastered the art of weaving their beliefs directly into the fabric of their everyday survival. The ultimate secret of the Paracas candelabra is not that it was built by aliens or for a forgotten god, but that it is a beautiful and enduring testament to a time when the practical and the sacred were one and the same. The Paracas candelabra has kept its vigil for over 2 millennia, a silent giant on the Peruvian coast. Was it a mundane landmark, a sacred symbol, or a message to the stars? The evidence suggests it was a masterful fusion of all three, a divine symbol that served a deeply practical purpose. It is a testament to the ingenuity of the Paracas people, who could transform a simple hillside into a lighthouse, a calendar, and a temple all at once. It reminds us that for our ancestors, the line between the sacred and the practical was not a line at all, but a seamless and beautifully integrated way of life, written in the very earth itself. Thanks for exploring history's mysteries with Ancient Relics Keeper. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. What secret should we unravel next? Stay curious and see you soon.